Good evening. I did a funny thing the minute I finished the Octopath Traveler 2. I bought up the original Octopath Traveler and played around on my old save file. It wasn't good as I remember. That's not really criticism of Octopath Traveler. Instead, it reminded me of something remarkable about the game. It's evoked the memory of how I first felt when I played a lot of the old classics. When I was 8, I felt like the backgrounds of the game, like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy IV, had beautiful deep on the field, even if they didn't. They synthesized scores, sounds, brand, and operatic at the time. It didn't even occur to me that the instruments weren't real. They all seem incredibly challenging to me too, even if most of those games are a breeze for me nowadays. Octopath Traveler sounded like my memory. It looked my memory, and oh boy, did the difficulty match my memory. It made me feel like an 8-year-old sitting on my floor, starting on my 20-inch CRTV again. I adored it. I didn't have quite of these same feelings. Instead of evoking my memories of the classics, I just felt like I was playing Octopath Traveler again. It made me feel like the sequel doesn't going enough to distinguish itself. When I got the first those hours, thought I realized I was wrong. While it looks like and sounds and plays like way I remember the original Octopath Traveler, it takes everything good about the first day, turns up to 11, adds a few quality of life updates, and is in fact a superior game overall. Perhaps the most significant improvement is the storytelling, through some of the issues with the original are still present. As I note my preview, the premise is the same. You start out by choosing out the edible playable characters as your protagonist, play through the first chapter, then go to recruit the rest and play through the stories as well. While might have less compelled by opening hours than I'd like, the stories each get better as they go along, and I was impressed with all 8 of them by the end. I was touched by Agni's desire to become a star. I cheered when she put a smile on people's face. I felt Oswald's pain and rage on the loss of his wife and daughter and wanted to see his revenge through to the end. I was particularly taken with both Casti and Temesto stories, two healers with vastly different personalities, with great character work and compelling mysteries drive their stories forward. That's why really the stories this time. The writing and the characters. Each of 8 has a strong personality, whenever it's petty or somehow selling on me on the potential of capitalism, done right to help prevent the pottery or Hikari's stoic kindness. They all jump off screen, making the world that much more vibrant. Their stories are filled with excellent characters too. Interacting with Hikibari Bland, strategic Kazan is fascinating as much as the pure Prius Sanctum Crank's crown fun interplay with Timina's more dubious fate. Even the NPCs in the towns have a whole rich backstories if you interact with them. Everything feels interconnected, and the level of deal and world building is astounding. They also made a fair number of changes how stories outroll in the Octopath Travel 2. Some characters have more chapters than the others. You might have multiple paths to go down within each chapter, and sometimes there's not even any combat in the individual chapter. This adds additional variety of the first game lacked. What people are probably most interested in through is how much the characters actually interact with each other and are involved in each other's stories. In this first game, it was a little odd when it seems like the other characters just weren't there during someone's story, but it didn't bother me much. Truthfully, not as much as changed here, through Team Asano has enough to satisfy me personally. Characters are still weirdly absent during the other stories, but there are many more travel abandoned sections similar to the Tales Kids, which the characters talk about the story events. They also added cross-path chapters where the two characters share a short story segment where they interact. Finally, after you clear every other captain in the game, there is a final chapter that involves all the characters, ties together some loose strands, make the connections between the individual stories a bit clearer and more obvious, while they didn't necessarily love the story in the final chapter. It's all delight to see all the characters on the screen together interacting. It makes me wish they got done a little more of throughout the game. Still, I think they are done enough to allay my concerns. One of the most unique things about the storytelling is what you can experience the stories is almost any order, which gets to one of your favorite things about Octopath Traveler 2, the freedom of the exploration. Outside of the few areas, you have access to essentially the whole map as soon as you clear the very first chapter. I spent a ton of time exploring the nooks and crannies of the world, clearing up optional dungeons, finding the new jobs, and being delighted when the enemy smacked down me after I got too ambitious and ventured into the danger. You even get a ship to sail around in this time. There's more to do here than in the previous game. Each area is simply busting with the secrets, alcoves, and the new discoveries. That's true in the towns too. There are newly added day and night cycles. Gives you additional things to do. Besides changing the music and the look, both of which I gush about in a moment, it also changes the character's path actions. The path actions allow you to think like get more information from the Toonspill, grab the items from them, bring them along into the battle, or even duel them. Hikari can fight people during the day or drive them information at night, for example. While I was found this a little bit bloated in every hours, I eventually found an incredibly engaging Octopath Traveler 2 does an exceptional job of ways giving you something to do, a new item to discover, or a new person to bring along. I constantly feel like I was progressing. The different path actions are a big reason why. While the Octopath is great, the really combat that I most Octopath Travel series is still delivers its shades. For those who haven't played the first Octopath Traveler, 2 is fully turn-based affair and you can see turn order, but it seems like to me round in the next. The enemy started with a shield that should be broken by attacking their weakness. When the shield breaks, they lose the turn. So they become weak, obviously. Well, I'm confident no one like we. The fact you still can get the chosen protagonist of the party until you clear their final chapter, and you can only change party members in town. So yeah. Octopath Traveler takes everything that works about the original, makes it better, and a fantastic game step in appropriate nostalgia. Excellent variety writing and storytelling, the characters are delightful. More connections between the different stories, exploration is satisfying and rewarding. The new day and the night cycle looks and sounds great, strategic, streamlined combat, stunning visuals and music. And to the end, about the cons. The stories could be integrated a little better, missing some quality of life improvements. And I don't own this soundtrack yet, so things bad.